daily basis. Do you do it in JavaScript? Or do you are thinking about doing it in JavaScript?
I did it 3 years ago.
Yeah, fairly. But JavaScript is not an easy language to work with. Like my background, as I've been saying, was mostly in static languages. So our static languages are higher level languages. Like I used to do it in C#, then I did it in Ruby. But when it came to JavaScript, the company was going in a direction that everything is open source, and we had to, all the dev work is going in Node, and so we had to kind of convert to JavaScript. And test automation started to go down the road. And for web, it was related easily because there was some frameworks for it. Like there's some structure around how we do it. But for native, which I specialize in, I do iOS and Android automation. It's not as easy. The tool. And during this journey, right? Like when I was doing this, when I was moving to JavaScript, I did quite a few pitfalls, and I think I'll go through some of those and how I work around them. So the first, take a look at this code. This is one of the initial functions that I have written when I'm trying to make a test case work. This is like this because this is the only sample that's available, or this is the only framework. I'm working with a tool called Appium. Appium is a iOS and Android automation tool, and it's also a it's also a node server. And I'm working the client-side code, or the test automation code is also in WD. And these methods, element by ID and click, are all WD methods. The reason it's all in a one single function call is because WD works like this. Like it's a fire and forget protocol. All the JavaScript frameworks are fire and forget. So you make a call and you expect you don't know when it will be succeeded. That's the thing. That's the core power of Node, and that's how all the JavaScript frameworks are designed. But guess what? Users don't do that, right? Oh, I think this is a PDF, right? Like there is no transitions. I was like, why is everything showing up at the same time? Okay. So users do actions synchronously. Like they do one action and wait for the next thing, wait for the screen to load, and then do the next action. But WD is not like that. Or even JavaScript frameworks are not like that. So you have to work around that. And also, if you see the previous code, it doesn't have any abstractions. Right? I have I have a small locators, but they are not abstracted enough. Right? So if somebody else has to read it, they wouldn't know much from this. And it's also hard to extract out a method from here and put it somewhere else. Right? There is no navigation helper, there are no action helpers. So the first problem is with promise chains. Promises are JavaScript's way of, say, coming out of the callback hell. Anybody can know callback hell? Yeah, callback hell is where JavaScript, the way, because you make a function and you expect it to return back, the way they handle it is they tactile hand callback. So the function gets the argument back when the callback returns the argument back. But it gets to a very deep chain if you are doing test automation. So promises are a thing against it. So this code is considered actually better code than that code. Now, the way promises work is, for example, then, right? So after the then function promises you that it will come to execution only after the previous steps are done. That's the promise chain. But still, this is not easy to read. So I came up. So I did some research on how to do things better. And JavaScript has been maturing. There is a lot of open source around it, and now with ES6 they came a keyword called async await. It's not still part of the core framework yet, so we can still we can make it use with adding additional plugin. But if you see async await, it will make sure that whatever this method returns back before it goes to the next step. The await is a block, so it's a blocking call. that made, I mean, even though it's verbose, I had to put it in every step. It makes sure that I write some structural code. And also, if you see, I also have navigation helpers. So, for example, navigate to domain details. So here, probably you wouldn't know that that's what I'm doing here, right? I'm going to one of the steps. I'm going to one of the screens and clicking on going to the details of the details screen. But looking at this, you wouldn't know it. So having a navigation helper would, like an abstraction would help me with the code much better. And also, I can use this function somewhere else. And the second set of problems that I faced with JavaScript tests, everything is how to run the test cases. The first problem is I'm using Mocha. If you can see from here, it's Git framework is Mocha. Mocha doesn't support tags. Tags are how you do in C# you call them attributes. So this is how you group test cases. So let's say you want to run only the smoke test cases. You say run the smoke test cases, right? Like there you can give the special command and you can run the smoke test cases. But in JavaScript or in Mocha, I had to do it artificially. I had to make sure that the test cases will have the tags, and I grep on the test cases to run them. So that's one of the workarounds that I came up with. The second one is how we want to run the same set of test cases in different configurations. So we want to run the same test cases in source tabs. We want to run them in say a different version of Android or on iOS. But you can't have, Mocha doesn't allow you that much configurability. So we use a task handler called grunt or dart. It's similar to, if you're in Android world, it's similar to Gradle, and if you're from Ruby, it's similar to Rake. It's like a workflow management. So instead of you chaining the tasks together, like let's say shell commands, you would use a easily digestible grunt task. So for example, I have this task and it will translate to upload. So it's running the same set of Android test cases, but it's translating to first do the upload to source part, get the APK, and then run the test cases. Okay, concluding. So though a bit challenging, it's possible to write good test cases or good test automation with JavaScript. It's just not so straightforward as you would do with other languages. So I have a couple of links here. Where the first one talks about how some of the tricks and learnings that I came up with and put in GitHub. The second one is, if you are considering doing any JavaScript automation, look at WebDriver.io, because it is, for one, it is both web, so you can do web automation as well as native automation as well, because it supports all the Appium bindings. And also it has a lot of core inbuilt patterns that are good for test automation. For example, async awaits, you don't even have to say await and async. If the promise chains are step by step, so the next line you can assume the promise is resolved. And it supports page objects, and it has a configuration for source tabs, so all the nice things for doing JavaScript automation. And there's a nice YouTube link which goes to much detail. With that, any questions on JavaScript?
I just have a question on your experience with Appium. Have you found running iOS native apps locally to be very, very slow?
Yeah, that's slow because by design, there is Apple put in a 1 second delay before every command, every commit or every next command. You have to wait 1 second. There is a hack around in Appium that Facebook put in a few 1 or 2 years back that kind of supplements it, but still it's slow.
And that hack isn't in when using the.
Once it came to one line, I think that's gone. And WebDriver, that people lost interest from Facebook, so they didn't do it.
Gotcha.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.